Okay, we'll start with the Nokar mantra. Om Namo Arihantanam, Om Namo Siddhanam, Om Namo Ayariyanam, Om Namo Vachayanam, Namo Loe Savasahunam, Eso Panchanamokaro, Sarva Pava Parnasano, Mangalanancha Sarvesim, Paramam Havai Mangalam, Paramam Havai Mangalam. So Mihir is taking the class today, but he's doing good work with the 3P program, so he's going to be a little late. So he asked me to introduce anger, and because that's what he wants to talk about today. So who remembers our 4 enemies?
Anger, ego, deceit, greed.
Right.
Yes.
Anger, ego, deceit, and greed. These are the things we are supposed to conquer and that we can conquer. And the first one is anger, so that's the first step. The effects of anger, I'm on chapter 8 of the book. Anger makes one forget about the difference between good and bad and react blindly without discretion. It ruins relationships and love in a split second, and some anger causes violence. So then we go on to, has anybody, we've been talking about this for a while, has anybody managed to conquer their anger?
Not conquer for sure.
Right.
Control a little bit, yes.
That's great. And so has it brought value to your life?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. And so the ways to conquer anger are preventing it or redirecting it as it's created. So some ways we can do that are holding your breath and doing deep breathing, practicing forgiveness, letting some time go by before we bring our thoughts back onto the topic, looking at things from other people's points of view, especially when other people are causing you to be angry. What is the main driver of anger in your life? Expectations, right? Because we have defined anger as a product of our expectations not matching reality. What are the main expectations that you continually find being subverted in your life?
Say it again?
What are the main causes of anger in your life? What expectations do you have that are never being fulfilled properly?
Well, never is a strong word. Not never,
Okay.
but it's sometimes.
Most of the
So,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, but for you.
Kids not listening.
Yeah,
that
it's our
kind
kids,
of-
right?
Yeah.
Because we always expect more out of them, but
Mhm.
a lot of times we don't, it's tough because we don't remember being kids, and we don't remember, I try my best to put myself in their shoes, but even some things they know, they know, and you've known they've done previously that they've expressed good behaviors in certain ways, but they mess up, right? And then we get angry because because we say, well, I thought you knew this already, like I thought we were past this and moving on to the next thing, right? So
I think the thing I iterate with my kids is when I get angry is if I have to repeat myself, which is the same thing you're saying.
yeah.
So I've told you 3 times, and now you're not getting it. So now my frustration is that this is not working, it's not successful, and I expected after the 3rd time that this would work like a charm.
Right. Right. Thank you. Come on in, yeah, let's close the door, keep a little warm. So we talked about anger in our life and the effects of anger and how to get rid of them. Of course, we've defined as anger as the mismatch between expectations and reality. That's the leading cause of anger. And we've identified the number one source of that mismatch in our life is our children.
Great. Great. Thank you for introducing the topic. So, let me send a word down real quick.
Sure.
and then I can start. Jai Jitendra. So, I want to start with one question. Let me say it in Gujarati and Hindi first, and then I'll translate it in English. In Gujarati, we always say, "Gusso aave chhe." Or Hindi, we say, "Gussa aata hai." Or anger just comes. What do you think? Is it anger just comes, or we create anger?
We create it.
We create it.
Yeah.
Does everybody agree with that?
Sometimes that's not the case. It just, I mean, it's not always created. It can be a reflex to something
It's
which
like an
was
instantaneous reaction. So we are
Reaction.
not like we are not
Think-
sitting and like create. I want to create anger. It's not like that. It happens in an instant.
It happens in an instant, right? So,
Yeah.
A lot of time it feels like it happens in an instant.
Yeah.
So, I said a pravachan, and I had the same mindset that it just comes. We don't create anger. It's natural. And today I'm going to try to explain there's a science behind anger. It's not just it comes. There is steps, and we go through different steps, and we can catch. If we are successful catching ourselves in any of these steps, we can actually stop anger. And let's talk through this today. So I'm going to put myself in a driving position here. I'm leaving my home. I'm going to work. I have a very important meeting. So I'm leaving early actually to go to this meeting, to be there in the right mindset, right frame, because I'm going to presenting to my CEO. It's very important for my career. So I'm prepared. I get in the car. I leave my house in the morning, and I have an expectation from myself that I want to be reached there on time and in the proper mindset, so I can be at my best in this presentation today. So I'm doing all the right thing. I'm sitting in the car, leaving. I'm in the driving position, and I'm driving at speed limit because I don't want anything to go wrong today. Somebody comes in front of me and start driving at 5 miles per hour, less than the speed limit. Okay. If you were in this situation, what would be your reaction? What would be your feeling?
Belongs to the change the lane, move on.
Change the lane?
Well, first you'll say a couple words. Like, really, why'd you come in front of me to do just that? If you wanted, you could have gone behind me and done that.
Right.
Probably.
Come on, Bobby. You see?
I try a lot. Yeah. Anyway, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's a valid reaction. One of them is change the lane. One of them could be say something and then
Change the lane.
Then change the lane.
then change the lane. So in any way, you have an expectation.
Right.
And now let's assume, just to make it a little bit more complicated, the other lane, you are in the left lane, and the right lane, you and your principal, you don't want to switch from the right lane, or the right lane is full. And this person can go in the right lane and just drive at 65, let's say for example. So now you have an expectation in your mind, right? That the person in this lane should drive at 70 miles per hour. Let's switch a little bit. You are the one driving at 70 miles per hour, and the person behind you wants to be 75. Are you doing anything wrong? But somebody has expectation for you to go 75. Can you do anything about that? Well, as per law, it's not. So now you're convincing yourself that it's okay to drive at 75, or it's okay to drive at 70 because it's speed limit and you're not breaking any law. But who says you can't drive at 75? You can get a ticket, but it's still okay. So that person wants to, it's fine with driving at 75. So with that said, you have an expectation for somebody to drive at least the speed limit. Okay? So the stage number one, and I think rightly so, it starts with expectation. And even with our kids, we have expectation for Nirek and Janabi to get ready for Patshala and get in the car at 9 o'clock. If it's 9:10, they're not meeting our expectation, and that's where it starts. That's where the anger starts. And I think any of the case, I think I'd like to discuss where everywhere you think that it's actually not a creation of anger, it just comes. So we started with the anger question. Is anger created or it just comes?
Created.
And create is one, and we had some opinion that it just comes. I also at one time thought it just comes. I mean, it's natural. I mean, I can't do anything about it. So this is the stage number one. Expectation. Now, what's the stage number two? The stage number two, it goes from expectation, and by the way, in the Gujarati, in the Pravachan, Maharaj Sahib used the word apeksha. Apeksha means expectation. Then the second stage is agraha, means insistence. How would you insist the other person to drive at 70 miles per hour instead of 65? What are the ways you can use to insist that?
Hold on.
Yeah, right? And we see it in India all the time. People honk. There is another way that's popular in Texas. Which one is that one?
You go very close.
Tailgating.
Tailgating, yeah.
Right? So you insist that that person should do at least drive 70 miles per hour. Right? Reinforce. There are multiple different ways. You know, our kids do that all the time. And now they're not getting in the car. The kids are not getting ready. So we insist, yes, you have to get ready. You have to be in the car by this time.
You know what we don't talk about is, we use the kids example a lot because the kids are the main driver.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about the kids' expectations. What are the kids' expectations? Their expectation is to be, what? I don't know, left alone, or like their expectations is for you to do it for them, or for you to tell them 10 times and not 9 times. Like, but what are the kids' expectations, and how is that making them angry?
I'll give you an example. My kid's expectation, and happened this morning. His expectation was to watch TV because Sundays are TV day. So his expectation is to spend as much time as I can before we get into car to watch TV. Our Jeremy's expectation is to do as slow as possible. She's never in a hurry. Obviously we are. But. So it's true that it's somebody else's expectation. Somebody else has a different expectation than ours. But now we're insisting. We're saying, you have to do this. You have to drive at 70 miles per hour. So this is a stage 2 from expectation. Now we have gone up one level up, and we are saying insisting.
How is insisting a form of anger or inciting an anger? Like, insistence can be in a form of politeness also, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can insist politely as well.
Yes, and absolutely. And insistence actually it's a pretty good thing to do if you're persistent and persistence. I mean, you continue doing something for something good, it's great. So for example, if I insist my kids to get ready and, you know, in a positive way and get them in the car by the time, that's great. But if I am telling them you have to now, right now, it's a different mindset, right? I mean, it could be a positive mindset, which is a positive thing, but it could be it could go either way. Yeah. And we're saying we're going to a scenario or a science behind getting angry. So insistence is the second stage of any other examples of. I mean, a positive insistence is pretty good, but in this case, I am right now driving in the car, and I want this person to get out of my lane or do something or drive at 70 miles per hour, so I can meet my expectation. So that's second one, which is agraha. The third one is ahankar, ego. Right? I'll take this example and you all can laugh. But let's say I'm driving a Corvette and the other person is driving some sort of a downgraded truck in the middle and driving at 65 miles per hour, or let's say 18-wheeler for that fact. I know I can drive 120 in 33 seconds. I can get to 0 100 and something in 3 seconds, and this person can't even drive that kind of pickup. Now, I'm gonna say yes, I can do this. Or in our kids' example, which is our favorite example, I'm adult. I have a right to push them because I am their parent. Sometimes an ego. I mean, or husband's wife expectation. That's like, yes, you need to do the dishes. Why do I do the dishes? I come from work and you come from work, and we all do the same thing. So why do I have to do the dishes every day and things like that? So now there is an ego part that comes into it, and we obviously once we get to this level, now it's more emotional to us. I mean, kids are not listening, or this person is driving in the middle, 18-wheeler right in front of my car, where in theory, no, it doesn't say everywhere, but the 18-wheeler should not be, in a practical sense, 18-wheeler should not be driving in the left lane. Why is that person even staying in the left lane? Any other examples of ego that you can think of?
I think there's ego also when we say, hey, especially with kids, right? At your age, we did these things. No one had to tell us. It came to us naturally, or what are we accustomed to doing? How come I have to keep telling you over and over and doing these things? Right? Ego, I did it. Why can't you do it?
Yeah.
What's different about your age and my age?
You always go back and say, when our parents used to call, we used to just stand up and go without any questions being asked or back answers. But these days you see, you have to call 5, 6 times, and then 7th time they might hear you and still stay quiet and not even adhere to what you're saying.
But that is like the first form, expectation. That's not ego. I mean, I don't think you have ego with your kids. You have ego with your
you can have there may be something that you may say this can be done this way. The kid thinks it can be done another way, but then you say no. But then you say I'm the elder one. I know how to do it.
Yeah,
So that's where the ego comes in.
When I say I and we or whatever, we did this, so I'm making myself look like I was able to do something. Why can't you do it? Or we always, Johnny over there, your school has reading books of this thing. Why are you not reading books this thing? It's all about ego, getting someone else's accomplishments and expectations, but we're taking someone's accomplishments and saying.
Mostly with kids, we forget the principle of anekantvad, that even they may have a different view. Right. We are trying to thrust our view on them that hey, this is how it should be done. They may have some
and it's a great example, because every time we try, sometimes we don't try to, we sublime our ego in front of our kids, but we're trying to challenge their ego sometimes. And Nirek tells me a lot of times, Dada, you're bragging. Because I'll do exercise, Dada, you're bragging. And I try to explain to him it's not bragging. But if you think from his perspective, it is. It's like, I can do so many jump ropes. Oh, yeah, and he says that. You're bragging, that means it is true. I mean, at least in his mind, I am trying to challenge his ego to come up, but unconsciously I'm bragging about myself. My ego is superior, trying to show at least. So yes, these are excellent examples. So this is the third stage. So now we have not only expectation to somebody to drive at speed. Second, we're insisting, we're honking, we're tailgating. Third thing, we're just saying now, we're even thinking more and more, this person should get out because it's an 18-wheeler and I'm driving a Corvette. I should be able to drive 70 miles per hour, if not 80 or 90, something like that. So this is the stage number 3, where we have reached now in our anger, or how do we get or create anger. The fourth one is asakti. This one was so difficult for me to understand, to be honest. And I translated that into English as attachment, indulgence, and infatuation. Have you ever seen a kids that, from a standpoint that I want it versus I have to have it? Asakti means such a love that now at this point, I'm just giving up. I'm going to put all the efforts to get this. For example, I mean, let's say I want an iPhone, I can afford it for myself nowadays, but as a kid, kids want an iPhone. They just want it so bad. They're teenagers right now and they want the iPhone. Just because peer pressure or something like that. They just want it, and they're ready to get to any level to get this iPhone. Now, it could be a positive. You can turn it to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, if you get all A's, we'll get you iPhone or something like that. As a parent, we agree. I'm just trying to explain the word asakti, and maybe you guys have some ideas you can share.
My idea of asakti is addiction. Basically,
Okay.
yeah. Basically, you are not able to let go of something that you are, addicted to.
Yeah.
So, smoking, people are addicted to that. That's
Yeah.
asakti. You can't let go, that habit. So.
That's a great example.
I think one way people might understand it is if you use the word investment. You're so invested in the situation that it is this higher stage of anger, because first it's your expectations aren't being met, and you have an opportunity to catch it there by saying, oh well, that was a wrong expectation. Second, you insist it, so now it's even more, because let's say you're right because the law says that I'm right, or because I'm the parent that I'm right. The third way is that you make it part of your ego, because you say, well, I have a Corvette, or I'm the parent, or something like that. And the fourth one is investment. That is, well, now that you've done these three things, you're right, you're the right identity, and you have the right expectations. Well, now you're really invested in this fight. And now forget about those other three things and whether you could have overcome them. Now it's just a fight. And now if it's just a fight, then I'm going to win this fight.
That absolutely. I think this is probably the very good way to explain it. It's that when we get into it, it's now our ego has had even elevated at this level, especially if I'm attached to something. It's whether it's a kid, whether it's the person driving in front of us. Now we're going to show them, right? Now we're going to cut into the right lane, forget about our own principles, even that I don't want to pass from right lane. I'm just going to do it, and just move on ahead. So yes, that's great. Any other thought on asakti?
Again, kids getting hooked to television or even cell phones, we give them, it's their asakti, they won't let go of it, unless we shout at them, hey, it's enough. So, getting hooked onto something and not able to let go of in an instant, or, after you insist, they won't let go.
So now we're just getting to with asakti, with the indulgence, with our infatuation for this. Now I really have to drive at 70 miles per hour. Because it's a public road, it allows, I'm right, I'm going to do it. So you can do it different ways, right? You may have uttered some word initially, or now, you were just said to the point that you're going to show that person. You're going to get in front of them, that's different options. We all know. You can lower the car and make some gestures if you want to, or you can just say, and let's move on. But whether you actually do something or not, sometimes we express our feeling and sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's just an internal. Now, we have gone through those phases and get to a point that we're really angry right now, whether we express it or not. We have that happen in our mind. And we're at a state that whether this person cares or not, this person knows or not, I'm an angry person. And you still keep on going. You're now back to 70 miles per hour. You made your expectation. But within the last 5 minutes, your state of mind has changed a little bit. You were pretty positive when you left your home. You have this happen in front of you that the person you didn't have any control over, and somehow that person succeeded to get you from a very neutral state to an angry state of mind. You're reaching office. You are actually before time, you actually saved 1 minute. Yeah, because you were prepared, you got there 1 minute early. But what do you think your position is going to be in this presentation, where you really wanted to be in a neutral mindset? From a thought level, from your mind level, do you think you'll be better off not having this happen, this episode that somehow took place? You went through 5 stages. So these are the 5 stages. Again, I'd like to repeat. So we start with an expectation that we really didn't have control over. The second stage was that we insisted that we really want to drive at speed limit. The third thing, we brought ego into place. The fourth was infatuation or indulgence. And the fifth state, we have now achieved the state of anger. So, with that said, I had two objectives at the beginning. As I said, I wanted to reach office on time, I wanted to make the presentation, but I wanted to be in the right mindset. I have achieved one of them. I've achieved that I'm 1 minute early, I'm on time, everything is great, but the other, I'm not so sure about. Maybe I have a slight modification in that state of mind. So, now think of an example where you think just the anger is natural. Just an example that you think an anger is natural. That anybody in this world should get angry in this situation.
Someone slaps you.
Someone slaps you, right? Yeah. Do we think that when somebody slaps you, and assume in this case without any reason, just you didn't do anything wrong, that somebody came and slapped you? I mean, Gandhiji is a pretty good example.
Yeah.
He says that, at least one person in the world will not get upset, at least as we know. As we know it, and we have not seen Gandhiji ourselves. But yes, why do you think that's... can we describe if somebody comes and slaps you? So first, let me see it actually counter me on this example. So first, we have an expectation that somebody should not come ever and slap us without any reason.
So I'll give you a funny example. This really happened in my middle school. It wasn't the first day of school or second day, and it's a very packed middle school. And another kid runs into me and says, he literally tells me, if I see you and bump into me, I'm gonna hit you. This is early in the day. Near the end of the day, walking out, going home, whatever it was, he bumped into me again. He saw me, he hit me. He didn't slap me, he hit me. Of course, I felt a little bad, I started crying, but yeah, he felt like, hey, you came in my space again. I warned you, don't do it again. And he just literally hit me. So yeah, I guess, he had a feeling that don't bump into me, and especially you're the same guy I told you once, and don't do it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you get angry?
I would more shocked and disbelief that someone remembered that, and my chances of running into him again was I don't think I felt angry versus like what happened here. This doesn't happen normally, and crying was more likely. And
It's a lot of things. Even from thought perspective, we think it just comes to us. And same thing, anger, we just think it comes to us. It's just natural to us. But again, I think even in going back to the example, we have an expectation that somebody can't just come to us and just hit us, right? That's an expectation that we have for somebody, which we don't have any control over. Now, if you were in a position that you were stronger than him, right? Let's say you were much stronger than him, you could have given the response. Your ego would kick in and say, you know what? You hit me once, you're going to pay for it. You will hit 3, you'll get 3. That could be a way of response, which you actually, for whatever reason, you did not choose that option at that point. So, once again, I feel, and I'm not convinced yes 100%, but I think that the anger we create, as I think Tamir already said at the beginning, and something that we can control. And actually, it's in our benefit, not for somebody else. I think it's in our benefit. Because if we can avoid that somehow, and it's one of those things that happen a lot in our when we drive. Now kids have started watching because somebody's driving slow or somebody's not doing something right, and we say, oh, they're on phone. So kids were automatically like, You know what? They might be on phone. So we have kind of created in their mindset, because now we have almost, in a way, reacted to anger about why this person is not driving properly. And we have given a conclusion that this person, because they're on phone, now we're not already affected ourselves, we are affected kids as well. And it might not be a great example of anger, but it's an example of something that we're not happy, we're not meeting our expectation. And sometimes when we are really in a rush, we will get to a point that we'll be angry at that situation instead of just saying, okay, it's somebody else's way of doing things.
What's the insistent stage on the unprovoked hit on you?
Yeah. What is the...
No, so in his example, the kid actually insisted once or twice maybe, and then he actually did it.
No, but it's
But we're talking
our
about
side,
your
Yeah.
our
your-
insistence.
Because this is one of the stages that leads to anger, right? So if somebody hits you, right, you have an expectation that not to be hit. But then what's the insistence?
Yeah, so in some cases, you will not go through all the 5 stages. You will directly jump from first to the last. And that happens in the split second reactions.
I thought you would just do all, because we know you can be angry like almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
But I thought you still have to go through all 5 within, it just happens very fast. But no?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know the perfect answer, but
Okay.
as you ask this question, I think about this. So, for example, in your example, you had this happen to you. Now, obviously you had an expectation that somebody in mind, tell me yes or no, but that somebody can't just come and hit you. Right? I mean, do you have an expectation that somebody won't come and just hit you? Is that
Yes,
face
it would not, right?
or would not? Yeah. So the second thing is now somebody has done it, right? You are now your insistences in this case is, guess what? I'm gonna get revenge. I'm not only that you have a thought in your mind that I want to take revenge, and not only that you want to take revenge, but you have to take revenge.
But is that not ego in that case? If you
That's ego too.
So the
Ego will be next one where
Yeah.
ego will be next one where
I have
how
to-
dare he, I'm Ashish Mehta. You can't hit me. I'm the bully of the school.
Right.
I'm taller than you. You can't come and hit me. Like a little short kid, you can have that same example. As a short kid would have turned around and I told you not to hit me, or bump into me, and he would have hit me. And I said, "What do you think you're doing? You don't know me."
And so we have the ability to stop anger at each one of these stages, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And I feel you're
Just
right,
giving up
anger
and-
is kind of created because you're not born with that feeling of anger. It's how you're seeing things around you, you're learning from them, and then the situations around you, you're making up your mind that this is probably the right thing to react in a way for a situation. And I mean, slowly that gets ingrained into you. So I feel it's right, it's created, it's not like natural, it's something you develop with time. And then it's up to you how to control that with proper measures which we learn
Yeah.
from these classes.
Yeah, anger in itself is not bad. I don't think in itself is bad, but channeling your anger into in a proper way, that's what you should think about. How
So
you channel it.
So is this just when you clearly define you now reach to the anger state? I mean, you think about this, every step is gradually building it up or instantaneously, but is there your action will tell you are, or just a thought that you are angry, or something you say, that's when you define your angry person right now? Because to me it's important to know the difference between, or teach the kids something that is, this is right thing. If the person is doing something wrong, kids must know that this is wrong. Whether it is driving at the wrong speed limit, somebody hitting you, that piece it has to have a very clear definition, right? Who's doing right, who's doing wrong. What you do about it is the next step, right? In this case, if you had an expectation, well, you should have an expectation that somebody is going to drive in front of you. You may not reach on time. You may not do these things right. So if you have that expectation ahead of the time, obviously you can
You start early.
you can have plan B, or even after starting early, car breaks down,
Yeah.
right? Any kind of things could happen, and you don't reach office at all,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, it's very easy to say than face that one. But when you have those differences, if you know those 2-3 differences, at what stage you consider yourself that you define as now you have reached the angry state? Is this just a thought coming in your mind? Wrong thoughts coming in your mind? Will it tell you that, oh, you already reached to that stage, or you take an action? What's the definition of you are now in that state?
In my mind, as I've thought through this, it's as soon as you have the thought in your mind, whether you react or express your feeling or not, you have deviated from that normal state that you were in before you started this. So whether somebody else observes it or not, you are.
Right, but you want to observe that in order to avoid that, right? If you don't observe that, you will never avoid it. And we already kind of discussed something like the thoughts comes and goes. When you pick and choose which thought you want to follow, that will define your action, right? So if the thought comes where you feel like doing something and you stop yourself, are you still angry?
Do you think thought comes or you originate the thought?
We can discuss. We can open the
That's
J4E. Timmy, what was this?
Thought, in my opinion, we originate the thought. We, in our mind, create things, and we have a lot of things that we probably pass thousands of thoughts in an hour or minutes and things like that. But even there, we have a control over it, whether we create that thought or not. Going back to the question regarding expectation and telling kids what to do right and things like that, I think when we do things over the time, we sometimes skip the step, like you said earlier. We go from one to the other, but not that it's just happened, because we are, every time somebody gets in front of us at 65 miles per hour, it's already an ego, because we know the first two steps always happens. It's already the very first time we started driving and this happened to us, we convinced ourselves that nobody in front of should be in front of you driving 5 miles less than hour than speed limit. So now we are already into that. It's that asakti mode, that you just like, it's a smoking cigarette or something like that. It's just same as that, and we just don't realize it because we think we're doing something legal or ethical. I mean, it's not health issue or something like that. So we think it's natural to get anger. So that's the scenario where we can skip some steps and get to a straight away to a point where we're just angry now, because we have convinced ourselves that it's a perfect situation to get angry at. Same as somebody slapping or somebody hitting, because we think it's natural to get angry on a situation like that.
Bhavin, I think you brought up 2 points. The first is that by teaching kids right from wrong, are we setting up that first stage of anger for them, that expectation stage? I don't think that that's true, but I'd have to think about it more. I think that we should teach kids right from wrong and what the law is, and that may lead to an expectations when somebody else breaks the law or somebody else does something that they get angry. But I don't think that we can not teach kids right from wrong, because we don't want to set up that first stage. And the second thing you mentioned was that, well, when would you be considered angry? Is it the thoughts, or if you arrest the thoughts, is it the speech? And if you arrest the speech, if it's the actions? I think it's a continuum, right? If you just have the bad thoughts and not the speech and the action, you get less karma. But it's possible to not even have the bad thought too, where if somebody cuts in front of you, you be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, of course this happened, and then you just move around, or you take the restorative action. It's possible not to have the bad thoughts too. So it's a continuum. Obviously we want to do all of them, but if we can't do all of them, then let's concentrate on not doing actions. And once we conquer that, let's concentrate on not doing words. And once we concentrate on that, then we can concentrate on not doing the angry thoughts.
Right. Well, the expectations, teaching kids expectation also, we should go a step forward and say, well, that's the right thing to do, but that doesn't mean if it doesn't happen, you need to be angry. maybe
Right.
that's another right thing to teach kids as well.
Yeah, and it's complicated. This is one of the things that is complicated because the right answer for each person is different where you are upon the path.
Right.
In fact, the right answer could be completely opposite for somebody further down the path than for somebody less than. And that's why it's so hard to answer questions from a mixed group because everybody is coming in with a different set. And kids, of course, it's just, we just have to, the kids are so far, just starting on their own path that we just have to just start with the right and wrong. Like, this is right and wrong. And of course they get angry when other people do wrong, and why can't we do wrong? And they're doing wrong, and I get angry because of that. Well, then now that you're on this path, now say, oh, okay. Now you say, well, yeah, you don't do it, you let them do what they want. It's still wrong, but, whatever. They're in charge of their own soul.
Right.
So that answer is different than the first answer. And then when they become an adult, the answer is even different. Yeah,
Right.
so it's tough.
But other thing that I do want to bring is, a time where you can truly say you are angry probably would be when you observe your breathing pattern. So your breathing changes for sure when you change your emotions, right? And the anger will definitely makes that breathing pattern change. So if you can monitor, this is my normal state, you know that, and you realize that, and you start noticing that, that's another way to point it out to
Yeah,
yourself.
that's a good point.
Yeah, mostly when you are angry, you are short of breath, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
if
not
your
just-
Fitbit beeps at you when you go above a certain heart rate, you'd be it's like a mindfulness.
That causes anger now, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, that's a good thought for a startup, like to have a anger monitor.
and
on your
Right,
watch,
yeah, you're
it
angry.
can tell you. You can measure
Calm
your
down,
heart rate.
calm
It can
down.
measure your
Yes.
breathing, probably. Well, maybe not, but
I actually have an example where my Apple Watch told me that you need to you're doing something wrong when I was sitting down in a legal case in front of lawyers, and I was being asked, and it was about an hour, and it actually noticed it and alarmed me that I should get up and walk around.
right.
Yeah, that's common, I think, but I'm talking about the anger situation, like some
Anger
device should
meter,
get
like-
anger meter.
Oh, anger meter! Yeah, wow.
You are getting angry.
You don't know you're
Or
getting
you're about to
angry
get
until it's
angry.
too late. Yeah, so it'll tell you before
Yeah,
it's too
you
late.
never know. Apple 6
I like that.
it is a feature already.
Yeah, something that
It's
can help
already
your
doing
breathing,
ECG. and
Right,
everything,
exactly.
right?
So Alma, you just answered my question. Sorry. One of the things that I always struggle, because my daughter, we teach her that she's about being fair. And her expectation that everybody should act fair all the time. Whether it's cutting the line, whether it's time to speak, whether it's teacher. If teacher just gives more attention to this one kid, and she's not, and ignoring the fourth kid, she's not even involved. But expectation that teachers should be fair all the time. And we struggle with this a lot, and I never connected this, and she gets angry at it. I never thought that's something that we contributed, and you just alluded to the point that we have set our expectation to be fair. Because it's always, all the time, even with Nirek, and they want to watch the channels, and like, oh, I saw one serial and then two serials, and she gets into this timing thing, and I'm like, but it's very interesting. And she gets angry at that because her expectation is everybody should act fair. I never.
But it's
connected that.
more so about teaching kids. They watch and learn, right? So you may be doing a fair thing in your job or in your day-to-day life when kids are around, right? And you are getting angry maybe because things are not happening fairly in front of them, right? So they are watching that and they are learning that if it's not fair, I need to react in this way. So that's why when you just act accordingly, they will follow the same pattern, right? Rather than
They
just-
follow us.
Kids always
Yeah.
observe parents.
They always,
So-
but yes,
So
and
once parents do good things, fair things, then kids also do the same thing.
And the way of expressing anger is also similar. Like, whether it's raising the voice, raising the hand, whatever we do, exactly they think, because they now are trained that they know the parents are angry when they do this or that. So I think it's 11:18. I'm going to kind of go ahead and make sure we wrap up with five stages of anger. And I challenge you to think about this 5 stages as you ever get angry, and hopefully you won't. But the first stage is expectation. The second,
Insistence.
insistence, agra. The third stage is
Asa- no,
Ego.
Infatuation.
Ahankar,
Ego.
ego. The fourth one,
Asakti.
Insistence.
indulgence.
Indulgence or investment.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to indulgence. And the fifth one is we have reached the peak of it, which is anger. And I repeated, I said this last time as we were talking about this topic, and the same Maharaj Sahib had said in different pravachan. There are seven times, and I definitely don't remember. Let's try to see what we can do. I know it's hard, and I think it's going to be 90% of the time, but even if we can do few, it's great. When you wake up in the morning, you don't want to be angry. And this is our struggle, waking up kids, right? All of us face that. They have to go to school, they have to come to Pathshala, and when they get angry at us, we get angry. It just happens. I mean, it's just one thought provokes another thought. So they are angry, we are controlling at that point, but now at the second stage we might get angry. So the first thing is not to get angry in the morning. Second thing is not to get angry at night. Just before we sleep, because we have so many thoughts that we create during our sleep. So that's the second step. The third step is when you leave your house, you don't want to be angry. Especially in this, India at least you don't have to drive all the day. Here we drive and there's so many things happening on the road. So I think it makes perfect sense. Fourth, when we come home, obviously as we all would love to keep our work and life separate. But when we come home, we want to make sure that somehow we don't have anger. The fifth one is while eating. We're absorbing that food, there's so much that goes into it. And if you're angry, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, if you're angry while eating, it's not good for our health. The sixth one is when you're talking to your loved ones. Whether it's your parent, whether it's your child, somebody that you love. And the last one is, fortunately I remember the seventh one. So the last one is when you're talking on phone. Let's not get angry when we're talking on phone. And okay, all seven might be difficult, but at least we can start with fear and try to see how it works and then adopt more as we go.
Very good.
Yeah, the very first point when you said when you wake up and you're trying to wake up your kids, we tend to get angry. What has worked for me most of the time is I tell my kid, hey, मैं तेरे को भी 2 मिनट में उठाऊंगा. And he's like, I asked him if you're listening, move your head, just nod. So he does that. Then after 2 minutes or 3 minutes when I go, he says it's okay.
Because you're setting his
expectations.
Letting them sleep a little more, right?
Yeah, I can sleep a little more.
One thing I want to make a question on. So the people we love, the people we care for, we have an expectation. And hence that's why the anger comes. But the stranger, like you said, a guy on the street who cut me off, maybe I might just blow it away, like you said. I'm like, whatever. But for a person that I care for, love for, and I'm trying to help them achieve something better, and they're not doing it, that's the reason I'm getting angry. But if he was just any ordinary Joe, I'm like, he dropped his food. He's not eating his food. I don't care. I'll walk by and just let it go. Has nothing to do with me.
Right.
The problem is we care for them. So if you don't care about them, if you don't have the attachment for them, my anger will never come.
It's actually, if you look in the book.
So the loving is not going to help me. I've got to disassociate the love.
Attachment is a good point, yes.
So if you look, actually this anger is part of aparigraha in our book on page 56. That is one of the reasons we actually should practice
And the reason
aparigraha.
I say this, my sister or brother will tell me, you get anger more with us than with anybody else. I said, because you are my family.
I love you. That's why I get mad at you.
I'm not just going to just scream at a stranger and say, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Okay, you didn't do it. Okay, whatever. It's your career, your job, whatever. You don't want to do it. That's fine.
I guess to change someone's behavior, there are two ways. One is fear and one is motivation, right? So fear is basically when you're angry, you're creating fear in that person. If you are aware that you're getting angry or whatever, then maybe step back and then try to motivate. That may be that's a better way than fear, which is based on your anger. Channelize it into motivation. Whenever you get angry, you just motivate.
And so your kids are a separate soul from you, and they will reap the actions of their karma. And that has nothing to do with you. And so it helps sometimes to remember that.
But we're trying to guide them.
Jinagna viruddh kai pan bola yo to michhami viruddh.